Hey everybody, welcome back to Boom or Bust. I'm George Tift, I'm your host, and I'm really encouraged that you're back for another video. As a matter of fact, that's what I want to talk about today is encouragement and how one word of encouragement changed my entire life, changed everything about me. It altered the course of my future. I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional house, like a lot of us, you know. We had 7 kids, and there was always something going on. Whether it was good or bad, that depended on the day of the week and whether Dad got home yet or not. But my earliest childhood memory goes back to a Christmas when I was about 4 years old. And you know, at 4 years old, Christmas is like major stuff, you know, because you have no idea why, really. At least at my house, we didn't have much religious background. You have no idea why we're having Christmas, but you knew you were going to get toys or something, you know. And so it was a Christmas Eve, and we used to go to my aunt and uncle's house on Christmas Eve, and they were old world Norwegians. And you went into their house, and that house was decorated to the nines, you know. And being 4 years old and going in there, it was like Toys R Us, you know. It was crazy, crazy, crazy. But at their house, the whole thing was children were meant to be seen and not heard, you know. So you couldn't touch anything. And the moment you got close to anything, you know, get back, don't touch it, you know. Hey, I was just looking, take a Valium or something. But see, they didn't have Valium when I was 4 years old, so no mama's little helper for these people. But I must have done something wrong because I got remanded to the stool. The stool was one of those old 1950 chrome and red vinyl things that had to pull out steps in the front, and it sat in the kitchen by the door that went down to the basement. And you couldn't even see into the living room where the tree was if you were sent to the stool, you know. So I must have done something inappropriate, and I was remanded to the stool. Well, I'm sitting on the stool, and I'm singing. I'm singing probably the only Christmas song I knew that I knew the words to, and that was Frosty the Snowman, and I was jamming on that thing, man, you know. I was just really in it. And all of a sudden, my Aunt Minky came in, and she was a skinny frame woman, always wore, you know, a dress. In fact, back in those days, women always wore dresses, you know. She wasn't no Betty Crocker looking woman, but she was special. So in any case, they had this habit that they used a percolator because they didn't have instant drip or slow drip or what do we call it now, or, you know, they definitely didn't have Keurig. They hadn't even dreamed of Keurig yet. And so they always had this percolator on the stove, and they would boil this stuff, man. I think they were making oil, right? But they had this really unique custom. They would take and use a cup and saucer, and they would pour the coffee in and let it overflow into the saucer. And then as they were ready to go, they would pick it up and they would sip it out of the saucer. They'd hold the cup in one hand and then they, you know, sip it out of the saucer. And I'm sitting there singing, but I'm guardedly singing now because I knew I must have done something wrong. And she looks at me through the steam of the coffee and she goes, "Georgie, you sing so good." And looking back at that moment, I swear that you know, that was the first time anybody ever gave me any kind of encouragement, you know, and had a lot of discouragement, and I had a lot of, you're going to be just like your older brother kind of stuff, you know. But that touched me in such a way that music became part of my very being from that point on. And it ended up all through high school and junior high. I was always in choir, you know, and I started playing guitar when I was about 10, 11 years old. And maybe I'll snip a picture in here somehow. But, you know, it stuck with me. It stuck with me my whole life. And later on after high school, in fact, in high school, I was in a band or two. And then, you know, after high school, I went into the military and I did some singing in the military for talent shows and stuff like that. And what ended up happening, though, was later in life, I turned around and I got into a couple of really good bands, and we started doing a lot of touring throughout New England, you know. And I was offered a recording contract with a small label in Nashville, right? So here I am, the kid on the stool now has a recording contract with a small label in Nashville, and we went out on tour, my wife and I, and we spent a little over 3 years on tour, and we did over 400 events in those 3 years. I said all that to get to this point right here. What we say to children matters. Like me, one kind word can change their entire trajectory in life. And children are like sponges, you know. They come into the world free and clear. They pick up from what they hear and what they see. Children are not born prejudiced. Children do not hate unless they're taught to hate. But a child that's taught to love and be kind to people grows up to be a kind human being, you know. One kind word shapes a future. And in the world we're in today, you know, where everybody's so critical of even the smallest things. You notice you can't make a mistake anymore? You make a mistake, man, they will bury you alive, you know. And in an environment like that, encouragement becomes even more powerful. You know, I told you in my last video that I walk in the morning, you know, and I go through this park nearby, and there's this like a yoga group or this exercise group that meets in there. And, you know, I'm proud of these people. And I'll be walking by there doing my thing, and I'll look over and say, yeah, you go, girl, you go, you know. Encouragement, it boosts self-esteem in people. It grows them from within, and it could shape a future and lead to greatness. So here's my call to action for you this week. I want you to go out of your way to encourage somebody. I can remember one time, I love doing this, especially if I see a child singing in a store or sitting in the carriage singing. Oh, I'll stop and I'll lean over and say, oh, you sing so good. And someday, you know, it's going to pay. I know it. No matter where you are, find that person. You can encourage anybody, anytime. It's an easy thing if you just take the step. And you never know that your one word of encouragement could change somebody's life. I encourage you to make encouragement a goal in your life. Make it your goal to be nice and seek out people to encourage. You'll change people's lives. You'll see it. You will see it. And it's the most amazing thing, you know. And if you've had encouragement in your life, make a comment down below. Tell me what happened and who did what and how it worked out, you know. Because not to motivate me, I'm highly motivated already. I'd love to hear your story, but perhaps it'll motivate somebody else. And as always, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Encourage me. If you subscribe and ring the bell, make me happy, make my day. Hey, and remember, it's so easy to be nice. And until next time, Boomer out. Peace to you.